It was about May 23rd, 2023, when I took the approach of going through the 2014 version of Lords of the Fallen with the high hopes that Lords of the Fallen 2023 version, because naming games the same thing is just confusing as fuck, and I hate you for doing this. I was hoping it was going to be great, and I was hoping that it would just be one of the best Souls-likes I've ever come across. Is that the case? Or is it just another 2014 with a clean coat of paint on it? Let's find out together and jump into Lords of the Fallen 2023, because they took the "der" away for some fucking reason, so it's just Lords of the Fallen now, and undistinguishable from the 2014 name. Just scrub that shit out of existence, I guess. Now, I'm just going to come out of the gate swinging with this one. I didn't watch the opening cutscenes or anything around it because performance was terrible, and I had to see if I just wasted more money. As you can tell, this is the PlayStation 5 version of the game, because on launch PC was a nightmare. Still has performance hiccups and it's not running completely solid in most areas, but it's much more stable than it was on launch, where I couldn't even get 20 FPS in the beginning part of the game, which is probably one of the better running parts of the game. It was pretty nutty, to say the least, so I had to swap over the PlayStation to try and get this video to somewhat work. So if there's not very good quality and stuff, I don't have the best capture card or anything like that. I'm just working with the material I've got to work with, so I'm sorry in advance for any technical hiccups or fucking quality drops or sound and like anything like that. I'm trying my best over here to get this quality stuff out. We picked Bucket Boy because fuck me, like any class that's gonna let me start with buckets as a weapon option is a class act option to pick, and we start the game. Now the game starts with a basic tutorial of how the game systems work, and I won't fucking run you through the whole tutorial on how everything works, because it's a Souls-like. We all know how they work nowadays. You don't need a tutorial, and I'm going to be skipping them in every other game from now on, unless they show something interesting and unique to this game, which this one does, which is why we're stopping by the old tracks to show you what this does in the game. One thing it teaches you is the ranged combat, which we'll get into on a later time period, down, you know, probably an hour into this video when I actually start using ranged weapons, because Condemned only starts with rocks and it's not enough gameplay footage to show you exactly how all this shit works, so we will wait on that one. The next part is the lamp. You are the lamp bearer. The whole game plays around with this lamp, this idea that there are two planes of existence, your world and Rogar world. With this lamp, you can switch between the two, passively and aggressively. You can passively be there by just holding the lamp out, and you can see the Rogar world around you in a cone, but you won't be able to interact with most stuff there, but enemies can hit you and drag you in there. Or you can just go aggressive and get straight into the Rogar world, ripping you into that world, and then you can explore the whole Rogar realm within this area to find all the secrets and passageways and ways to go so that you can get on with the game. The game teaches you very quickly that there are items that can only be obtained here, ways that you can only achieve by going this route, as well as it's not always the answer to be in this realm, because one, it can block off passageways with all these tentacles and walls and stuff, as well as being in this realm for too long with the eyeball at the top of your screen will cause a phantom to spawn in and kick your ass if you're not ready. And I don't think I was really ever ready for the fight. He completely cancels out heals, he's a tanky motherfucker and hits like a truck. I don't know when you'd ever be ready to fight him, because I don't think any point in my playthrough was I like, yes, I can take on the Reaper, but that's besides the point, I guess. It just shows you that there's all these positives and negatives of being in this world, and you're going to have to switch between the two if you want to get moving. The Rogar world is why I'm doing this game in October. I was going to do Bloodborne for the Spooktober game, but I'm choosing this one simply because the Rogar world lends that like spooky atmosphere, and you do feel a level of dread while trying to move through this world. Enemies are constantly spawning, and they are forever spawning while in this world. You're never safe. The atmosphere completely changes from this like kind of deep dark aesthetic to like, we are now just in a fucked territory. Like, this shit is spooky as fuck. They definitely hit that like weird vibe where like Everything is just fucking strange and weird and spooky, and I love it, and I love the whole aesthetic they go with the Rogar world. The whole grey tentacle-ish like vibe they're sticking with this world is really good. After you do the tutorial, you just go to the tutorial boss. The tutorial boss isn't anything to write home about. It is literally just Elden Ring levels of tutorial bosses with the Godric Knight at the end of that like tutorial that most people walk past. So that one gets a pass for me because you don't even do it 90% of the time. You just walk past it. The only time I ever do that boss is as a joke at the end of my videos, and that's about it. But this boss is mandatory and a laughing stock, and you can give me the argument that it's a tutorial boss, so like it should be easy. In my argument, a tutorial boss shouldn't be easy. It should be difficult, but not too difficult, as well as teach you what the game is going to be holding at you with bosses. For example, Championship Gundyr is always a guy I go to as a tutorial boss that does a really good job at teaching you what Dark Souls 3 bosses are going to be like. For example, he sets you up for knowing like dodge timings and weapon swings that you're still going to be learning throughout the game, as well as he teaches you second phases are going to exist within this game, as well as the second phase is going to change a boss to a point where you can't just do what you've been doing, you've got to change up your playstyle accordingly. That is a good tutorial boss, teaching you multiple angles of the game in the bosses. This game just throws a standard generic guy at you and lets you beat the shit out of him until he's dead, and then before you know it, you move on to the next thing. It doesn't take long, he takes too much damage, he doesn't have enough health, he doesn't do any damage, he's a laughing stock. It's a tutorial boss, I'll let it slide. After that, you beat him, and it summons the pursuer of this game. This guy is going to pop up a lot, so get used to his face and get used to him going, "Give me your lamp!
Give me that lamp!"
Except from that, he's just here to one-hit you, and he's going to do that in multiple locations, so I'll point him out every time I ran into him. He's a bit of a dick. He is definitely the pursuer of this game. He pursues, and he really wants that lamp. Having him kill you gets the cutscene of the guy that I assumed through the whole game was the guy from the first game, stopping him from taking your lamp, and then you respawn and the game fully begins, letting you explore the world. This is where you actually get to find the Wayfinder. This is the guy in the cutscene, and I'm just going to call him Harkin from now on because it's fucking Harkin. If you've played the first game, you instantly can see from the way he stands himself. If you look at his face, if you listen to his voice, it is the guy from the first game. It is physically impossible to not recognize him. It is Harkin, and I was calling this from the get-go, so I don't care. I'm just going to call him Harkin. Harkin will tell you about the lamp, and then you have to explore the village. The village is a pretty simple place. It's not very big, and you can't explore too much. It's a very straight and narrow path to teaching you more about the Rogar lamp system, switching in between worlds when needed. And it also shows you the first time where you can actually like astral project people's memories out from the lamp and stuff, and you normally get an item and it gives you a bit of lore, but there's not much to say about this area. It's a cool looking area, but there's not much around to do with it, so it's straight to the next boss. But before we get there, we bump into Harkin once more to show us about the little bonfire baby system. If there's like flowers on the floor, using the lamp you can put a makeshift bonfire up to make sure you don't have to backtrack as much through areas and stuff. It makes it easier for you to place a bonfire where you think you'll be spending more time than the bonfire closest to you. So it's a cool system. It makes backtracking less of a ball ache, and they're a buyable item. I don't know how many of them you can buy, so it's not like you ever feel like you're in a place where you can't put one down, and they're generous enough to give you a lot anyway, so you always feel like you can spare one or two in an area, which is pretty nice and pretty convenient for most things, because this is where they teach you about you. Right outside the boss. Without this, you would have a big run back to get to the boss, so it makes boss runs and stuff a lot more easier if you choose to place them there. Let's talk about this boss. Petra, I think is how you say it. She of Blessed Renewal is the first actual boss of the game, sets in stone what the game's going to have in store for you, and it does a really good job of doing this. It does a perfectly fine job of teaching you what the game is, how you're going to be playing it, and the pace of the bosses going on forward. It sets the precedent of a slower Souls games, more of the more old traditional style Souls games, going back to 1, 2, and kind of 3, where I like that. I prefer the slower games. Like, I don't like the Souls games nowadays feel like they have to get more one-shotty and more fast-paced to be considered a harder game now. It's not for me personally. I prefer the more slowed-down approach, the more pick and choose your moves and attacks to go in on, with more attacks to go in on, heavy weapons not feeling more and more fucking terrible because they attack slow and the enemy has 12 billion attacks in between your one attack. I just like this better. Overall, the boss fight is great. Just normal swings, nothing too crazy, and the second phase adds a bit more crazy to it with the addition of double lasers, double swords that she throws into the ground that travel towards you, wings now, she's flying in the air. Her attacks are a bit more the same as they were before, with a bit more ferocity to them and a bit more range, and she has the lane option where she can split herself into 2 clones and they'll go into either middle, left, or right, and you just have to go into the lane that Petra is in, and if you're in that lane, you're perfectly fine. If not, the clones will just dash at you, giving you the bee's knees and probably doing a chunk of damage to you. Overall, it didn't take many attempts to get this boss down. It took multiple attempts on PC, but on PlayStation it only took 3 attempts because I've already tried to do this boss before, and this is as far as I got on the PlayStation and PC terms, so this is all new from here on out. So with this, you get a cool little cutscene. This cutscene is a interesting thing where she like blobifies herself. I don't really get what she's doing. She just kind of blobs up and reinvigorates herself and then just dives off the cliff, and that's where the cutscene ends, and now you have access to Sanctuary. Well, down here you get a little cutscene about thingy, but I'm pretty sure I skipped it. I can't remember because, again, I played this on PlayStation and PC. This is where I got up to on PC, so I kind of skipped a lot of the cutscenes. I'm trying to remember if I skipped it, but I can just use the PC version if I didn't skip it. So there's a little cutscene of the guy at the beginning of the game. There was a crusader that I forgot to mention, who was like, champion, rise, and you do all this stuff, and he was like, I knew I was right about you. And he tasks you on going to find 5 pillars to go cleanse, and that's our mission of the game, to get to these 5 pillars and cleanse them. You can also talk to Patra Peter down here, where she apologizes for trying to kill you, thank you for killing her, and then she levels up your Estus of the game. And that's about as much as I did in this area. I got a free stick from a merchant, and I moved on with my life, onwards and outwards into newer adventures. I'm just going to throw this out there now, because heavy strength weapons don't come till very later on in the game, and even then, they're so few and far between that I end up switching between the new ones when I find them. So, for the majority of the video, you will see weapon swaps galore, normally between bucket, spear, and sword, but eventually I do land on something I do like and start upgrading it. I think it is by 3rd boss you should see me with a consistent weapon choice, maybe 4th. But until then, you'll see consistent weapon swaps, and then after that, it slows down. You'll see me switch between certain weapons, but majority it goes from an axe to a bludgeon to a greatsword, and then that greatsword is what I finished the game with. So that's the weapon progression. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It's not me randomly cutting between which plays I went and whatnot. It's just I swap weapons a lot, so that's why it constantly changes. Same with armor. Armor generally changes quite a lot, depending on what weapon I'm using and all the equip loads and whatnot, so that's all the stuff as well. So you'll be seeing a lot of changes going forward, but you'll see a wide variety of gameplay with that. Without further ado, let's get to the next area. So what's next on the chopping block? We have this like construction area, which what I think is supposed to be happening here is they're supposed to be building outwards to have a connecting point between 3 areas. One is an optional area, the other one is later on in the game, and the other way is the way you're supposed to go, as well as the castle that you've just come from, or crypt I think it may be. I don't know what part of the building you are, like I think it's called the Skybridge, so I'm just going to call it the bridge. So your safe zone / bridge, so it's supposed to connect all 4 areas together pretty much, and I guess that's the kind of idea. There's construction equipment around and planks you can jump onto and stuff. It's a pretty small area, all things considered. 2 small areas back to back, I would argue. And from here on, you can either go to the optional area, which I don't think I did straight away. You could go to the boss, which is what I do think I did straight away, and you can go. You can't go the other way, you unlock that later on in the game. So there's your 3 options. You can't go back towards Skybridge because it's a drop down to get here. So these are your options. You go indoors. Indoors is the way you're supposed to go. And from here you'll find another bonfire. These are scattered few and far between, so you always got to keep your eye out for them. From there, you simply can just go straight through to the boss. It's not a long walk. It is a couple of corridors. You start at the top, go down, go across, go down to the bottom. There is one character you can speak to, and she'll tell you about the Rogar gods and how some guy has a plan for you, and you enter the boss fight. The next boss on the chopping block is God's sister. I don't know how to pronounce that name, so it's just God's sister from here on out. She's not that exciting of a boss, but she does show one key factor that I'm glad they show it on an easier boss, which is why I think the boss is easier than the average bosses you'll be fighting in this game. One of the key things she shows is that boss fights will sometimes have these like tendril like creatures on them. There's like these, I guess you would call them wards. I don't know what you would call them. In the Rogar plane, there can be these little creatures that are attached to enemies. They'll either do one or 2 things. They'll either give life regen, or they will make her completely and utterly invulnerable. This one just makes her completely, utterly invulnerable, I'm pretty sure. So you've got to go and suck the little creature into the lamp before you can actually fight the boss, which is why I think the boss is a much more easier and simpler boss to fight, just to show you how this mechanic will work later on, so you know what you're up against, and when it does pop up later on, you're not getting smacked around by a hard boss while trying to figure out how to deal with it in the most easy and consistent way possible. Overall, she just flings her flail around until second phase. Once you hit second phase, she gets a bit faster and has this like fucking zoom vroom vroom move. But overall, she just flails around her flail a bit more consistently and does a little bit more damage. Not much to write home about here. She just kind of goes down and dies in a pile of her own blood, and we can move on quickly to the next area. Quick stop back at the first boss fight just to see how we actually get boss weapons. You've got to suck the memories of the boss first, so that then you can get an item that lets you trade in for boss weapons. It's a pretty cool system, and when I do it, I'll get around to talking about it, but until then, you'll have to wait and find out. It's back on with the adventure 4. Back to exploring, we go the other way. Instead of going towards the boss we just did, we go down. The down leads to a couple of jumps, a couple of platforming sections, which the jump in this game is just utterly fucking scary to try and perform at all. It's just insane. It feels like you're never going to make the jump, and your character always looks like he's on the edge of falling. Sometimes he does just fall because the jump isn't long enough in the slightest. But do these platforming sections, and it brings you to the dead end that I found myself in. And to my knowledge, this is the only time the game ever uses the lamp to this effect. What you're supposed to do, what I think you're supposed to do, I have no other idea how you get down there, is you use the lamp to go across the platform that is there in the Rogar world, then just let go of the lamp to drop down onto the item that is below, and then you can just enter the Rogar plane and explore freely. The thing is that every enemy in this area is really strong. Feels like you're not supposed to be here at this level, which is kind of saddening, because it's the only way out. There's no way out after this point. You can't platform your way back, so you've got to go this route. And sadly, because of that, one, it gives me a cool weapon that I will use eventually, the bludgeon. But secondly, I die and lose all my souls, because on the way back, all fucking tomfoolery breaks loose, and I get pushed off like twice and die, and then the souls are gone. And this sets in motion of what I would call the tilted phase, where now the game is a terrible game for me because I was stupid and lost my souls, and I just keep making stupid decisions from here on out. Pilgrims Perch is next up on the menu. The actual big area, the first big bad boy you're going to be facing, and Jesus Christ, I was not prepared for this. I was still tilted about losing my souls, and this guy right here can go fuck himself. Hate these fucking enemies, because I'm stupid and didn't realize something. See, the general premise is that they headbutt, and they do a lot of damage while doing so. The idea is you're supposed to not get headbutted and not attack while they're doing it. Because there's one time where they do super armor. When their head flashes, it's super armor and you can't do anything about it. Only sometimes though, other times it doesn't. I didn't realize this. I just thought the game was broken and wasn't working as intended at this point. I was like, why the fuck can I heavy attack them sometimes and not others? Losing my mind slowly but steadily, my sanity was beginning to fall apart. I did some stupid shit. I jumped off a ledge. I was right next to the bonfire and died. I'm not proud of these things. They happened and they are what they are. The first part is a bit of a stretch, and then you get to the second part, which is just even worse, but I'm glad they put a bonfire halfway through. Later on in the game, you don't get such privileges, so it was nice to see this. So pretty much the first half is you doing a bit of platforming and climbing upwards to get to where you need to be, which is the next bonfire. In this room there is a guy with a shovel who will talk to you, an elevator you can't access yet, and a door that I don't have the key to, but it will become relevant later on, hence why I'm mentioning it. After that, you then adventure off into the second part of Pilgrims Perch, which devolves into complete and utter madness of fucking enemies that kick my ass. You finally fight more bird people, which are these like moth things that just spawn enemies in the Rogar world, and that kicked my ass for a minute. Then they summoned two, I repeat it, two, and I will say it again, two of these head fuckers to slam me about for a bit. Granted to say, I'm still not having a good time right now. I'm still tilted at the soul loss, and now my ass is just being handed to me on a silver platter. The aim of the game here is to open this umbral door. Umbral doors are something I've not talked about yet, but I will right now. Umbral doors are a very simple concept. They are a like moth kind of thing that is blocking a doorway, and it grows off into 3 different tree trunks here, but it can just be 1 or 2, but this one is 3, and you've just got to run around and pull the people off the tree trunks, which destroy this tree trunk, which will open the door. You do it in these 3 locations here seen on your screen, and then the door will open and you can go forth. This door will lead you to an underground bit with a shortcut elevator taking you all the way back to the top, but more importantly, there is the blacksmith locked in a cage. To help her out, you got to kill all the enemies around her, and then once you've killed all the enemies around her, one of the enemies will drop a key. Giving her that key will get her and her partner / slave Sparky out of that predicament, and eventually will move to base alpha, as I will rename it now. And then not long after that, it's just using, the only reason there is a shortcut, I would argue, is because there is a boss about 4 more seconds down the corridor if you don't go down to where the blacksmith is. So next up is the boss fight. Mistress of Hounds is up on the chopping block. She gave me a bit of problem because, and it wasn't a bit of a problem that was too much or that like the ads were annoying or anything. I was playing with delayed sound, and one of the key things I found with this boss is while you're on the wolves and whatnot in the boss room, you need to play around hearing her pull her bow back so you kind of have an idea when she's going to attack. And when you're playing with delay, it is not easy to figure out when you're going to attack. It is like the worst experience of my life, but I get her done. The wolves themselves have this funny thing where they have armor on, and I just find that hilarious to me that these developers were sat there and like, I know people hate FromSoft dogs, I know people hate Souls dogs in general, but like, people will love it if we just put armor on the dogs. Like, I don't know, people will go ecstatic for it, they'll love it. Granted, I think it's a needed change because their dogs don't have like the movement speed of a FromSoft dog or a Souls-like dog. They're not moving too fast, and they're definitely not pouncing around everywhere. So that armor does give them some safety when they're just kind of like dwaddling around. So I do agree with the change. It's just funny to me that like one of the most hated enemy types in Souls games was like trying to deal with a fucking FromSoft dog. and they're like, let's just put fucking armor on them. People will love it. The boss itself is just a bow dagger user. She'll fire a bow when you're at range and whip out a dagger when you start to get close. When you've done a bit too much for her, she's not feeling it anymore. She's not liking where this fight's going. She'll smoke grenade away and summon 2 more hounds. I have no clue if you don't kill the hounds, if it summons an additional 2 hounds or just leaves the ones that are already there. I wouldn't fucking know, and I'm not going to test it at the moment, so, you know, adventure at your own risk sort of deal. Eventually, a couple of sword swipes and a couple of stabs later, and I adventure into the Rogar realm because of a bit of a predicament with wolves and bow bolts and arrows. We do take her down, she drops dead, and we can move on to the next area. Forsaken Fen is the next place we will be exploring within our realm. It automatically instantly shows you that you're closing in on the first beacon to cleanse. This beacon needs a bit of a clean, and we need to hurry up before it gets to that point where we've just got to order skips and vans to get this shit sorted, so we better make a move. With this being said, it's an instant back-to-back boss fight starting with the next boss. You instantly fall down into this pit and activate the boss. This guy is a big boy and he had a big problem. I couldn't get his dodge timers down. They were weird and I just didn't understand it. I eventually found out unlocking your camera was just the best strategy for this boss because the roll just seemed to be a better dodge when it came to dodging his moves. I also found out just getting stuck behind the back of his leg also made him kind of freak out and not understand what was happening or what was going on. It's not a foolproof strategy though, because poison will eventually creep in on you, give you a little bit of the EBGBs and the tingles and put you down if you're not careful, so you gotta kind of be careful on what's going on in that boss arena. He has these weird time slam moves that I'm just not a big fan of, not really understanding how to dodge him very well. His swipes and his fall back, I'm pretty confident with. His slam downs, not so much. He has this dangerous charge ability as well if you stay too far away from him. So you got to make sure once the poison's around him, you stay in a nice distance where he's not going to do that. Because you got to have fast reactions to make sure you don't get twatted by that thing. Overall, though, it's not a terrible boss to fight. He does have one of those suckers on him that you've got to kind of, you know, against, so that you can just, you know, suck him up, hit him with the big suck, and, you know, move on with your life. So you got to make sure to do that before you start putting deeps down on the boss. Other than that, there's not much else to say about this big behemoth of a guy. He's your typical big boss, throwing really slow moves out and trying to do big damage with some weird hitboxes, I would argue. So, like, sometimes I swung at him and did no damage, as well as just weird timings on his moves that I'm not really sure I've still got down to this day. But I liked him. It was fun. He was a fun, tall dude. I really like big boss fights, and this guy ticked the box perfectly for me. Into the next area, which I'm still think is called Forsaken Fen. We are now in this like swamp, like village, kind of like fishing town, I guess, maybe. Not really sure what they're going for here, but it's like poison swamp village fishing town. And Shovel Boy is here to meet us once again. He tells us that he keeps the lanterns going, and as long as he's here, the lanterns will keep us safe and hoorah, whatnot, I guess. This area is just a bit of a enemy density issue, where it just has loads of enemies that are just really easy to kill, but there's just an abundance of them. Except from that, there's not much else to say about this area. We get the axe that I'll be using for a majority of the playthrough. A bit of exploring will bring us to the next boss of the area, which is this fucking walking stone head. Now, I know what you're saying. Actually, this character is different. I can sniff it from a while away. He has fire powers. Yes, I know it's not the same character. This is a different character that I've made on the PC version, so you're getting glorious PC content now. Bada bing, bada boom. The game actually runs. It's fun. It's cool. I like it. But for some reason, I just don't have footage of the Visage boss, so you're gonna have to deal with me, who is just like beginning as soon as I woke up, have gone and just booted the game up and ran through the game to get here. Not even a single fuck was given, just bolt and boss, and that's all I've done, because I kind of wanted to use these axes anyway, so it just made sense. This is why we're here. Let me tell you about this boss. So, Rockface McGee over here does the one cardinal sin that I hate in all boss fights, and is having one very annoying to reach weak spot. You can only hit him on his back. If you don't hit his back, your sword bounces off him, because he's rock everywhere else. Can you see where the problem lies? All he does is jump around the arena, giving you very little time to attack his back. You'll get 1 or 2 swings in before he's up doing another move. The second swing is dangerous depending what moves he's throwing out. Also, he has a charge that does chunks of damage. He deals wither damage. He has ads in his arena that also deal wither damage. Are you seeing the problems here? This guy, as a side boss, is harmless because you're not forced to do him, and he doesn't fucking destroy the game. He doesn't make it too difficult. He's just boring, which is like the one thing I don't like. I like a boss being destructively annoying is one thing, but just being boring is worse for me. At least make me do something. To do something, like anything. Just stop jumping around, getting stuck on your own walls, and just fight me like a man. The only time you actually get to deal damage is when he opens his face up, and even then, when he sends the maggots out, the wither damage goes fucking ballista mode with them, so that's fun. It's just an overall boringly long fight that just takes a while for no reason other than you can only hit him in the back. Have fun. It doesn't, like I said, it's not terrible, it doesn't ruin the game, it's just long and boring, but it's optional, so you let it slide. Eventually, Stoneface McGee becomes Floorface McGee as he dies, and we can move on through the rest of the world. Back on the axe character, and there's a few things I wanted to mention at this point. Number one is that you have to have the full stats to two-handed weapons, so this axe is like 23 strength, I want to say. And that means you just have to have a flat bang 23 strength. You're not allowed to be mixing and matching. You can't have 19 strength, too low. 20 strength, even, that's still too low. 22? You're missing 1 strength, buddy. You ain't wielding this thing. You gotta have the exact stats that it wants you to have, or you're just not allowed to wield it. And that is the end of the question in that matter. The other thing I wanted to point out is dual wielding in this game. All long swords, short swords, like, they all have somewhat of the same dual wield animation. No short sword, like, all the short swords and axes and stuff will have the same. Long swords and anything longer will have the same. Great swords and so on and so forth. But you can combo all of them together. So you can wield an axe and a sword, or an axe and a long sword, and it works perfectly fine. I saw people complaining, like, oh, you were too lazy to put in these, like, different moves and stuff, and I was like, but like, they're doing something that I don't think I've seen any other Souls game let you do, which is combo pair different style of weapons together. It's such a fucking stupid statement to make, where it's like, oh, they couldn't be asked to do this, when they've done something else that I'm yet to see another Souls game do, which is let me fucking combo weapons that aren't in the same tree. Like, you can use a short sword and a long sword, an axe and a hammer. Like, these all combo with each other. Most other Souls games don't even let you do that. Hell, Dark Souls 3 only let you combo weapons it chose for you. So, like, I don't know where we're getting off, like, complaining about the fact that, like, all long swords, while comboed together, have the same fucking moveset as, like, the long axes and stuff. I don't really get where we're getting off on this, when this is obviously done so that you can combo the long swords and the long axes together and whatnot. It's a bit of a fucking, like, mute statement that I don't know why I've seen been brought up multiple times already. Anyway, after getting lost for two-ish hours in this area, being poked around with poison sticks, it's time to fight the boss that stops us from accessing the beacon, the Hush Saint. So what is this boss all about then? Well, first things first, I thought it was just going to be a tree dude with, like, you know, some tree stuff around him, intertwined with, like, branches and whatnot. Then it turns out he has a horse, which then I was like, ah, great, one of these guys. I hate boss fights with horses, because normally the guy just runs around like an absolute fucking knobsack for 5 minutes and lets you hit him once every 2 minutes within those 5. It's just always like the worst kind of boss, where this guy gets to run paces around you in the boss arena while you just wait for him to come to you. Thankfully, they don't go that route. Just like the dragon in the beginning of the game, the horse is completely immune to damage. So it's just a transitional phase where you're just waiting for him to get off the horse, where you just dodge very noticeable attacks coming forward. He's never going to blindside you if you can keep track of where he is, because as he attacks, he jumps under the ground, and then the little tree branch will just move under the ground. You can see exactly where it is, and then he'll come out where it goes to, and you know where to be looking and dodging at all times. Not too hard, but yeah, not too easy. Eventually, when he gets off the horse, it's just mono v mono, man v man, weapon swinging, butts to the wall action. I do like the guy. He's a pretty fun fight. His timings and stuff aren't ridiculous, but he does hit like a truck, so you can't just take him at a grain of salt. You've got to make sure you're dodging these attacks. Some of these attacks will just kind of one-shot you, so you gotta be careful. Granted, eventually, when you've whittled him down enough, you've done enough of the horse transitions, eventually he'll go to second phase. Second phase is a much more fun experience for me. This is when the boss fight really shines, because he puts away the horse and just goes mono v mono, man v man, all the way through. The only time it transitions to anything is when he goes underground to set up for a different move, either to summon the horse to just charge at you straightforward, to jump out and do a slam attack, or to jump out and do a spinning attack. Except from that, it is just dodge the attacks as you see them coming at you and pray to Lord that he doesn't hit you. There's one timing I always struggle to get, and it's his shield. His shield timings, where he launches the branches out when he slams the shield down, has a weird timing to it that I haven't really got down yet. But eventually, when I get this down, it's just going to be an absolutely blast of a boss to play against. I do love him. I think he's probably up there with the first boss on like an actual experience that I love from start to finish with very little problems in between. Yeah, it can take a while for him to get off his horses and stuff, but once the boss fight is moving and grooving, it is just a really fun experience. As well in the Rogar world, there's a bit of an aid assistance for you. There's these little orbs that you can hit that will stagger him for you, which is a big helping hand, especially when he's starting to get off on his own of record and starting to pop off a little. It gives you a second to just kind of adjust to the situation around you. I do like the way that certain bosses have that in their rooms, just a way for you to kind of recover what's going on. It's a nice addition. Anyway, the Hush Saint, as great of a boss as he is, eventually has to fall so we can cleanse the beacon, and we can do that, and we can move forward. 1 beacon down, 4 to go. I know it's not looking too good, team. It's been 35 minutes in and we've cleansed 1 singular beacon out of 5, but I'm trying to do it as the adventure entailed for me, and it generally felt that the first half of the game was a fucking marathon, and then the second half, which was the next like 4 beacons, went by much quicker. So that's why it's paced like this. I don't know if it's just because I played the early game absolutely poorly. Don't know if it's because I started as Condemned, which is a class normally harder to start as, gets better as you go along, and lets you pivot off of stuff quicker and easier. It could be a multitude of things, but the beginning of this game definitely felt like a fucking stretch. And like after, I would say now pretty much, the game starts to speed up, and it's not until we hit the mines, and when we get there, we'll get to it, is when it starts to slow down again, because I absolutely struggled and slogged the mines, and then it's back to just a fast sprint through the game again. So it's not going to be an incredibly long 3-hour video, like fucking 30 minutes to an hour dedicated to each shrine. I just wanted to make it clear. It's just how the game was paced for me. I don't know what you want from me. With beacons in our sight, it's time to get moving. A crossroad will form in front of us. One way which we go first, leads us to the boss fight of optional proportions. So what does this guy have in store for us? Well, he has a bit of a stance, a long sword, and some holy powers in between. He is a pretty decent fight. You're gonna have to have a bit of a rustle-tussle with this guy. He's not gonna kneel over and die very easily or quickly, especially when his second phase hits in, but we'll get to that. So he's just a general knight that has his little swings, except he clones himself, and his clones are a bit of a dick. Dealing too much damage to him will get multiple clones going, and then that's just a ruffle-tuffle tons of fun that you don't want to be a part of. So I recommend trying to not spawn multiple clones in, because the dodging gets a bit redonkulous. With that being said, though, the fight is a really good fight. It's an enjoyable little tussle with a guy, sword v sword, just the way I like my fights. The second phase, however, he starts to use his holy powers a bit more. And if he starts to do this thing where he starts blocking and he's generally now regenning health. And the way to deal with this is you hit him while he's blocking. He will back up and then do a swing, dodge that swing, and then you can hit him. If you do it in the right rhythm, he won't be able to buff back up after you've done, like, after he's done his healing gig, so he won't be able to redo that healing gig until he buffs back up, and while he's buffing back up, it's just free damage, so it's all good stuff. Eventually, after a little bit of a spat with the guy, you know, throwing some fisticuffs, he'll go down, and that's another boss done and dusted on the road. Pretty fun fight, do enjoy it a lot. Sadly, it doesn't equate to much, because it gives you an item, which is a cool item, don't get me wrong, but then it also gets you a shortcut that, except from connectivity, doesn't make a lot of sense. When would you ever need this shortcut? At what point would you ever want this? You could argue it might be a nicer run back to get to the next area, but I just don't see when this shortcut would ever be used, ever. It's an interesting conundrum to roll out. If you really wanted to, like, go from this area to the next one, you would just put a baby bonfire down. So I'm not really sure what the plan is here with this shortcut. It's just an interesting idea that just leads to nothing. If you had to come back to this area at some point, back to the beginning of the game, that would be cool, and like that would be a cool way to get there. But like, as it stands, there's no reason for it to exist there. Unless I'm missing something, which I don't think I am, there's just no reason for this shortcut to exist, sadly. A quick run down the other passageway will take us to where we're supposed to be going, to a bridge where one angry fire dude is not really happy about us crossing such a structure. It means another boss fight. This monster among men is the runner. This guy is more demon and fire than any human wishes they could be. This guy wants to cook you alive and sit there and watch it unfold in real time. He is a madman with a mad set of skills. He's a big dude with attitude, and he's got an axe and a shield to go with it. His armor and his designs is really cool, and his axe and his shield go well for his character. There's not much else to say. He's just packing fire and boatloads, and he's ready to use all of it. Two moves that always catch me off guard is his projectile, which always seems to catch me unless I'm lucky at dodging, and his anchor move, which, for the love of Christ, him taking reduced damage is just a sad time overall. He pulls this thing out of the ground, and it just fucking makes him take reduced damage, and while it's doing that, it's pulsating fire around it, and while you're trying to attack it, he's doing whatever ippy-bippy bullshit he wants to do to make sure you do not cross this bridge in any timely manner. Overall, the fight is pretty fun. He hits like a truck, so you gotta be careful, as well as you don't hit him as hard as I was hoping to hit him. I don't know if I just had low strength, low weapon standards, or whatever. He just wasn't getting hit as hard as I was hoping for. Overall, though, the guy is a bit of a beast, but not too beastly for the boy with an axe. And to join the spiky head club, I have become the thing I once hated the most. I'm a spiky head boy. We can take him down in a convincing, quote-unquote, convincing fashion, and we can move on with our life and leave this bridge in the past. Just a little side note, by the way, I hate when games do this. Souls games are notorious for giving buffs these big, behemoth, fucking whack-off weapons, and then you get it, and it's like this teeny thing. His axe looked nothing like the one you get given. His axe has got some fucking length and girth to it. Yours is just like this spin dick piece of shit. I don't know, man. Like, I hate when games do this. Rant over, pursuit begins. This guy comes in and just completely and utterly fucking rails me. Like, literally just rips my arm off and just makes me eat it one chunk at a time. Didn't stand a chance against the fella. Don't know why I thought I would, but we gave it our all. I was like, oh, cool, boss room. That should be fun. And he's back. What a dick. What an absolute knob. I hate him so much. Not a big fan of him. I hope he burns in a wildfire somewhere. Not a fan at all. Hate him. Except from that, there's not much else that happens in this area. It's just straight to the next one. It's just a connecting area. You can beat them, and I'm pretty sure by beating them, you lock yourself out of getting the Dark Crusader quest done. I'm pretty sure. So, you know, it's a tale of two stones, I guess. There's a cool video, and I'll link it in the description down below, of someone beating him, like, when you first encounter him. It took him a while to do it, and multiple attempts, but he finally does get it, in a very clean run at that. So I will link it, because it is a cool video, and it's a cool watch if you want to see how it's done. But yeah, this guy sucks, and I want to see him again. Off to the next area. After being fucked up by the pursuer, a bit of exploring Brix's shopkeeper, which I'll explain now, and then later on when we get to the mines, I'll explain the one that really pisses people off. So this shopkeeper, he's a traveling merchant. He's supposed to travel alongside you every area you go to. As long as you talk to him, he'll show up in the next area. Everyone's happy, except for me, because I decided to do a bit of adventuring. So just running past enemies to see what was in this harder area to explore earlier on in the game by buying a key for 9,000 souls to access it. And it turns out there wasn't a lot there except a brickable merchant. See, going to this area earlier than you should have completely locks the merchant out from showing up at certain locations, as well as he'll never show up at Skyrest. Home base will be a traveling merchant now, which means the whole idea of this traveling merchant is that as you travel through the game, he gets bigger and better items and rewards for just showing up to him. Being able to purchase more upgrade materials, better weapons, and all that stuff is all available from him as he travels with you. What I did was just completely fucking brick him and make it so he didn't travel alongside me, and sometimes didn't show up in certain areas, never showed up at Skyrest, all because of a little journey I made just to explore. Quest lines are very fickle and really easy to break in this game, and the shovel guy is a big example of that, but I'll discuss his break when we get there at the mines. First, we've got to go to the next area. From where we fought the pursuer, the next location is a really coolly designed one. It is this whole city that is just engulfed in flames, burning down to the ground. It gives me real Bloodborne vibes on the area, I can't lie. But the first thing you do when you hit this area is to instantly run into a fire boss who you have to destroy 3 tendrils till you can actually damage her. If you don't, there is a consistent circle of fire damage just spread around there at all times. Once you destroy these 3 tendrils with your little lamp, giving the little suck, you can then start wailing on her, giving her the beans. She doesn't have much defense when you get up close, but getting her distance, and she can be a real meanie about it. Also, her fireballs go through most things for some reason, so destroying the tendrils is not the easiest thing to ever be done, but you can get it done easy enough. This fight is kind of just another, throw down, just kill her and get on with it sort of deal. Once you're on top of her, she is pretty much as defenseless as she can be. It killed me once simply because I didn't understand what was going on at first. It was like, there's a circle of fire around her, what do? I don't know what to do, I can't damage her. It was only till I realized that she's got 3 tendrils around the arena that I was like, oh, I'm in a bit of a situation here, so I just died and reset. So I probably could have one-shot it if I didn't, be idiotic as usual. She's a cool looking boss, and she, literally not even 5 minutes later just becomes a normal enemy. So it's kind of more of a Dark Souls 2-esque boss fight where it's just a normal enemy beefed up a bit. Eventually she goes down and we can explore this beautiful fire city that I really liked and enjoyed exploring. While in this wonderful area to explore to our heart's content, the main goal is to climb. We've got to get through the city to go up and up till we get to the next boss. But while we're just exploring, I just want to say it's just a really nice area. It's one of the nicer areas in the game to explore. I didn't really ever be like, man, I wish I wasn't exploring this area. I always love coming to this area and exploring it. The fire, the city, the burning, all of it, the atmosphere, everything about it is just so cool to me. I just love every minute of this area. But onwards and upwards, as they say, and it's time to find our way through this hellhole to the boss. And onwards and upwards it really is. We've got to get all the way up this tower to get to the boss fight. Problem is, it's a bit of a hike back to get to this boss, and because I'm still in my stubborn no use of baby bonfires unless it seems absolutely necessary, because I don't want to waste them and have none for the end of the game, we're only one fucking beacon in, we've got to be careful. We don't baby bonfire this one. We just keep doing the run, and it's a hefty run. You gotta go all the way up the tower. Once you get to a certain room, then you have to go into the Rogar realm, go up the ladder that is in the Rogar realm instead. Get all the way to the top. Then once you're at the top, you go left instead of right. At the left, there'll be a way to get out of the Rogar realm back into the real realm. Once you've done that, you can then head right all the way to the very end, dodging the mage that is spewing fireballs at you, and then you can finally fight the boss. This boss, again, wasn't too difficult, only 2 or 3 attempts. It was more the run back that annoyed me more than anything else. He is an interesting gimmick of a boss. He's this giant towering dude, more fire, more molten lava, except it kind of reminds me of a boss I recently fought in Remnant 2, where instead of fighting him mono v mono on the ground, trying to break something or break a posture or whatever, he eventually, after hitting him so many times, will spew lava all over the floor, making you take the high ground Anakin. Once you've got the higher ground, you'll have to pick from one of 3 places to stand on these little 3 platforms and fight him there. He's got a couple of moves he can whip out, the most devastating one being his mouth hand. His mouth hand is fast, unpredictable, and really hard to get used to, but once you're used to it, it's not any problem. It's more just getting used to it. Also, locking on in this fight is not recommended. Your roll dodges these much more easier than the little dash you do when locked on, so I would recommend going with the roll over the dash in this fight. Overall, it's a fun, exciting, and pretty interesting fight, with a couple of mechanics also sprinkled in, making you move from platform to platform, as well as hide behind walls from a devastating explosion. Eventually, after you get him low enough health, he will then retreat into going, ow, my leggies hurt, and you can go on the floor and kill him. I didn't realize what this was instantly, and if you don't act fast enough, he will do the explosion thing again, and if you don't have enough time to get behind one of the blockages to stop the damage, you'll just take damage. Thankfully, because of the Rogar realm incidents where you go into the Rogar realm after you die, I get a free retry on this, and we get to put him down once and for all. This big behemoth takes a big nap, and we can move onwards and upwards into our quest for pillar number 2. Heading down now, because from the area you get to from the boss, which is just a filler bit just to get you to the actual area you need to be at, you've just got to go straight forward and get out of there as fast as possible. Enemy density is insane and nutty and disgusting, and I did not like it here one bit. But once you get to the very end, there's a door you can open that leads you into a house. That house will lead you down into the mines, and the mines is where we need to be. And yes, this is the place where you can break the shovel guy. We'll get to that. The mines is your typical mines level within a Souls game, except more spacious and breathable. It's a good thing they went with this route. I'm kind of hoping that they did, because if you think about it, with this game's Rogar realm system, you have an option where there's never-ending enemies spawning, and if it's a one-person or two-way system, all it takes is for 4 enemies to box you in and you're fucking screwed, or for one enemy to place himself awkwardly in the way and behind you, and you're also screwed. So making this area more spacious with not many too narrow corridors to try and get through everywhere had at least like 1 or 2 space rolls even when there was a bunch of enemies around, makes it so that the game doesn't irritate you by fault of its own, but if you die you kind of made a boo-boo of your own accord. So that was a good design choice, and I'm glad they went with that option rather than just making tight corridors inside a mine where enemies could spawn in around you. Definitely a good choice to not try and piss off gamers. Other than that, it's just your typical puzzle solving mine system, draining waters from certain areas, opening and closing doors to get stuff activated and whatnot. There's not much to talk about, and I didn't find anything much of worth here. Halfway through you get another bonfire, then you can choose which route you want to go, up or down. So this is how we brick Shovel Guy's quest. You see, from this bonfire you go all the way to where you've been going past every enemy that you see, and you'll come up to this crossroads here. You either go down or up. Up leads you to the Skin Stealer boss fight, which we'll talk to in a minute, because he's practically the same as the Lamp Stealer boss with just less cool stuff to do around him. So I'll talk about him in more detail when we get to him properly with the Lamp Stealer fight. But overall, it's a good fight. It's just kind of like I know there's a better one existing out there in the world, so I'll explain it in more detail there. If you go up, beat this boss, and take the elevator up, you'll go and brick the Shovel Guy's quest, because by doing this, he'll murder a shopkeeper and get his pendant back. Going down is the right method. If you go down and go to the area that is below, that apparently also has a boss that isn't optional according to wikis, so, you know, take that with a grain of salt. I'm not too sure if it's optional or not. Doing that will take you down to the merchant that won't be butchered by now if you've done it the correct way and gone down first, and that will continue the quest as intended. It's kind of ridiculous that the quest just bricks because you go up and do nothing. You don't do anything. You take an elevator ride up and the quest is done. It's kind of stupid. I'm not a big fan of it, but we're here now. So Shovel Guy's quest is completely done for, and there's not much I can do about that. Two people completely ruined by me running around ahead of time and doing things out of order that don't really seem to have an order to begin with. So kind of ridiculous, but hey ho, I guess. Anyway, yeah, we go Skin Stealer first, beat his ass, take elevator up, take elevator back down to continue exploring, and go down to the pots we skipped out first. Deep down we must go indeed, all the way down to the bottom of the mine. The deepest of depths, the darkest of dungeons, if you will. The only place in Mondstadt where no one hears your screams or battle cries. Only little echoes of noise will be heard from down below. A little distance into our travels, a pit stop occurs when a boss fight of optional proportions displays itself forward to us, as the Reapers that have been just kinda idly wandering around the Rogar realm are now in a boss fight arena, but 3 times. This is kind of the Ruined Sentinel fight of this game, if I had to compare it to anything, where in Dark Souls 2 you fight the Ruined Sentinels. If you fight the Ruined Sentinel above on top of the platform you normally fight it on, by the time you've killed it and dropped down, you will then be fighting 2 other Ruined Sentinels. This one kind of works the same. By the time you've got the first one to half health, the second one spawns. By the time you've killed the first one, because it works on health decrease, not on time, by the time you've killed the second one, by the time you've killed the first one, the third one will spawn. So you're only ever fighting 2 at a time. So it's not really a 3-man boss. It's a 3-man boss, but only 2 at a time. So there's no need to worry about it that much. They're just the Reapers. They're not going to do anything dangerous or tricky that they've been hiding up their sleeves. So mostly we can just wipe our hands with them, give them a little bit of a slap around. Heavy attacks do the good job of putting them on the ground and letting me charge you the one to put them back on the ground, and before you know it, those bosses are done, letting us trace deep down below into the mines, the depths below. We continue our journey. On our way down we get 2 hammers, which means dual wielding is on the cards. I thought I'd try it at least once. I wasn't planning on it. I just wanted a 2-handed weapon for this playthrough, and then maybe think about future playthroughs going along with that. Like I said early on in this video and showed, I've got an Infernal Axe character that has got to wield 2 Infernal Axes, so I am playing around with the dual wield, and it is pretty fun. The saddening part is that it doesn't seem like any weapon has a unique weapon style or combo. It just seems like everything kind of shares the same dual wield attack. Great hammers all have the same attack pattern as a great hammer would. Same with long sword, short swords. They all share the same attack pattern, but if you combo a long sword with a short sword, you'll do the long sword dual wield attack instead of the short sword, because obviously they don't want you attacking fast with the long sword, so on and so forth. So the dual wielding does kind of make sense, and like I said earlier on as well, I'd rather be able to combo weapons into a dual wield formula and not have loads of different dual wield attacks then be limited to what I can dual wield in my game. So like when you count the 2 evils, I'd rather go with the one we got than the one we didn't. That being said, we're practically at the bottom of the mines, and the boss is just right around the corner, and a bit of a shocker will turn. So for me to get to this boss, notice I said me, we'll get to that. For me to get to this boss, I had to take 2 elevators down and a bit of a walk. Now this is the problem with this game, elevators can't be sent back up. I don't know why this was a design choice, but it is what it is. So with that being said, I couldn't send the elevator back up, so if I ever failed this fight, I'd have to wait, call all the elevators back up, then go back down. One of the elevators has enemies in front of it, so what I ended up having to do most of the time is just go down one elevator, call the elevator back up, go back into the other elevator to go back up, then go back down, and then go back into the other elevator to go down to the boss. You see how that can get annoying real fast? But I'll say why I had to do that later. Let's get to the boss fight. With that being said, the boss is up, and the Plague Knight is ready to bat, and bat does she do. Her crossbow and sword system is brilliant. I always a sucker for a boss with a crossbow. Looking at you, Gale, you sexy son of a bitch. Crossbows in boss fights always make me happy, because then there's a chance I'm going to get that crossbow in a boss form, in like any sense, safer form. Elden Ring really disappointed me when there was no boss crossbow. I hated that. It is absolutely saddening to me, but I'll take that. You roll with what you get, I guess. So with this game, I saw the crossbow and instantly got happy, so this probably, you know, doesn't help with my bias towards this boss, but I still think she's really good. Using the sword and crossbow to her advantage is something that I like to see. She wasn't just relying on one or the other. Getting close would get her to swing her sword around, and some dodges were hard to make, as well as the crossbow would fire a bolt, or she would jump back and fire 4 bolts, which was a devastating attack if I wasn't ready for it. Her attacks are clean cut and easy to cipher. There's no confusion on what she's doing, and you can get around her pretty quickly and easily, while the mage is shooting you from above while also buffing her. She'll buff her so that her crossbow and sword now do more damage and fire projectiles, which is a big no-no for me, but I managed to get beside it until you get to second phase. From second phase, it goes from sword crossbow to sword magic. The mage that was originally firing spells and buffing her from a distance now gets onto her face and just submerges and congeals with her, making a conjoint beast of a woman that is ready to take on the world, now using magic and sword with a forever buff sword firing projectiles, meaning that it's no longer safe being at range or at melee with her, as well as these screws slash bolts slash nails that she has that if you even let them come close enough to you will chunk you for health, and if you use the move where they spin around her, God forbid if you get stuck in that, it's GG, well played, go next run. She is a formidable opponent while in this phase. She will take you around the block a round or two, but eventually once you get the timings down, she is a bit of a slow lumbering creature, and you can get some easy hits off while dodging her attacks while swinging. So there's always that. It is a fun fight, and the second phase is a funner part of the fight for me. I like the design of the second phase. I like the way she goes from the Plagued Knight, this cool looking knight with this nice looking armor, sword in one hand, crossbow in the other, she's ready to take the fight, and then she just morphs into this beast, sword in one hand, her hand in the other hand, ready to whack you about with it, while the mage is just now part of her fucking face, ready to fire spells and buff us accordingly with these 2 nails that are constantly stood at her side. These massive ass fucking bolts ready to come at you at any moment, given or taken, is a pretty cool spectacle to look at. The boss arena as well really fits them both, and eventually, slowly but steadily, you'll whittle her health down. Before you know it, the unbroken promise will become broken and she will go down, leaving another boss in our wake and one step closer to shrine number 2. We better start speeding this up because we're an hour in. Now remember earlier on where I said I had to take 2 elevators down to get to this boss, which was a bit of a portleg. Well, leaving the boss room will take me to a bit of an item that I see and I go, ooh, that's interesting, let me go down here, to find that under the platform where I fought all those enemies earlier in the video, there was a bonfire. There's a bonfire right next to this boss that you can just run straight to the boss with and have no problems at all. Even if I didn't want to do that, I could have put a baby bonfire down. Again, there was multiple options out of this run, and I just went with the run anyway. I'm not happy about this statement at all. A town covered in ash is where it leads us to next. This is where, if you go up from the bonfire where you brick the Shovelman's questline, not much happens here. It's just a quick stretch to the actual beacon where you can cleanse it without a fight because there's no boss in between you and this beacon. You've already fought everything that is worth fighting, so if you really wanted to, you could actually just make a quick bolt for this and not have to fight anything. But then we do make it way there, and an hour into this video, second beacon out of 5 has been cleansed. This might be a longer video than I was anticipating. After a bit of an adventure trying to find out where else to go in this world, I found that you need to go to the save hold, buy the key that I bought ages ago for like 8k, 9k vigor or souls. Then go to the bell room. There's a door across from the bonfire in the bell room, and that will take you where you need to go. You'll run around for a bit. Eventually, you will find the boss fight that is just lingering around. By following my perfect description of how to get here, can't go wrong. You would have killed many paladins and dogs to get here. You'll come face to face with the boss. When you enter the room, you're going to want to go straight to the middle and do a little suck on the small little minion to make sure the boss is not invulnerable or healing, as well as all his little minions behind him. You want to kill all the adds as fast as possible because it just makes the fight easier. No one's going to attack you or hit you with lightning. I didn't do that, and I just fucking winged it. When fighting the guy himself, he's a guy with a bell on his head and a big hammer. If you saw him down in the mines, he didn't pop up in the video earlier because I didn't fight him in the mines. I just ran past him just to get through the mine bit. So That's why you don't see him earlier on, but like, you see him in the mines, you already know what he's gonna do. He's got a bell on his head, which I have heard gives him superpowers beyond any recognition, so I was expecting a spectacular fight. He doesn't hit the bell once on his head, I don't think, which is just saddening. That's like how you get the powers, but no, doesn't hit the bell on his head once. He doesn't really do much except swing his hammer and use energy powers of holiness, and eventually he'll just go down. He's not a big threat, not much of a fighter. Heavy attacks will stagger him, so like, you can just spam that at him. Hit him with a bit of the beans, and eventually he'll take a big L and go down. Can't believe I actually made the gesture in real life. Don't know what's wrong with me. Let's move on. Well, from there, you go all the way top for what I'm going to say is a fortress. I think that's the right terminology I should be going for here. A fortress in the sky. It's got a wall around it. It's kind of like a castle, kind of like a mini village, but I think fortress is the right term you should be using for it. No fucking clue, though. So, we'll move on from that. There's not much to say here. There's 1 boss, 2 boss, 3 boss, 4 boss, 5 bosses in this area altogether. Had to count them out in my head. I'm pretty sure I counted right. So, without further ado, let's get straight into this area. Run straight through everything. There's loads of shortcuts. It's a very compact area with loads of shortcuts and stuff heading to the areas you need to go to. Eventually, once you go on top of one of the buildings, you'll get to a boss. This is a 2-on-1 endeavor where you go ham on ham with 2 statue things. They have statue-esque swings and whatnot. By this point in my lamp, I've been socketing stuff because one thing I forgot to mention within this game, and we're only an hour something into the video, so it's a good time to talk about it now. Sorry if you heard my chair squeak. You can socket gems into your lantern and into your weapons. Lantern takes eyeballs, weapons take gems. These gems will be standard stuff, as much as increasing physical strength, increasing strength scaling, increasing damage while two-handing, all the way up to adding burns to your weapons, as well as the eyeballs making you invincible for longer while transitioning into the Umbral Glaive, all the way to not being able to be posture broken when doing a heavy attack, and all damage done while heavy attacking is turned into wither damage, so you can practically cheese most enemies with it. This is the method we will use going forward for most of our fights, because I only found out I had that till now. So without further ado, let's get on with the boss fight. And like I said, it's a 2-on-1 endeavor where they have some booky movement and some really annoying spells that they like to throw at you. For example, there is this sword move they have where it's a thing where they put light swords in the ground and then they start sliding across the ground. But they do it either in a line or as a crisscross. The crisscross while you're trying to hit the guys is fucking irritating because you're just taking damage and stagger while trying to hit them because their swords have crisscrossed each other. Great. If you kill one but not the other, eventually the one will start reviving the other. Kind of like Dark Souls 2 Throne Room fight with the Throne Watcher and Throne Defender. You gotta make sure you get them both consistently low, then you can kill one and try and kill the other. If not, you're gonna be in an endless loop of rezzing each other, which is just a no bueno. There's not much else to say about this boss. It's just 2 statue dudes throwing down in the statue worlds. Eventually they will crumble and fall, and we can move on to the next boss. After hours of getting lost in this hellhole of a place, I just couldn't figure out where to go. Shocker, another area in this game where I got lost in. It really showed how directionally fucking stupid I was. Eventually I find out you can drop through the roof over here, and then you can finally start making your way through to the other area where you'll find either 1 or 2 bosses depending which way you go, but the first one I fought was a stinky dude on a stinky bridge. Bro had one gimmick, and he barely does that to any extent. He can poison, and he puts it all over the arena. Yeah, he doesn't realize my heavy attacks do chunks of damage to him, and his poison is mere of nothing to me, a mere flesh wound to the man of such might, if you will. Yeah, he doesn't do a lot. He's not even defending his bridge very well. He makes it stink up of poison, and then just kind of dies, but doesn't really die. He then crawls on the floor in agony like, oh, woe is me, have some poison, ha ha! And then like, after he does that, he kind of then actually does die. I don't know if I had to hit him or not, but I went back in to make sure I finished this motherfucker. And the blessed carrion knight is just done for. He wasn't very blessed, is all I'm gonna say. Next boss on the chopping block is a mage, and I don't like it one bit, no siree. This guy is an absolute knobsack. He is a mage that fires lightning holy spells, I guess. It's just the same fucking shit that Pitter Patter Pitter 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 had, where she does like the little laser beam, except it's now tracking and hits just about the same as Petra's did back then. So like it's doing the same amount of damage. It nearly one hits me. It's nutty. I don't like it. It's insane. As well as you gotta hide behind a tree to dodge most of the abilities that he's throwing out. As well as, just to even get to him, it's a chore. And then when you do get to him, he just fucking teleports away. So then you gotta reset and redo all this shit. I hate it. This is one of the moments where I realized the ranged combat should have been, like, neutralized much better for me. It took me a while to finally come to terms with ranged combat plays a big part in this game. And I think this was one of the bosses that would have been much better if I just used one of the throwing objects to fire them instead of just constantly running at him and getting hit by spells that just weren't fucking fun or fair to dodge. But overall, after a long sludge journey of hiding behind obstacle trees, eventually we get him, but he still gets the last laugh because he beats me as well. So I have to run back for my souls in this area that I'm not a big fan of. I fucking hate this guy. After beating him, he leads you to the next area that we will be progressing through. I really like the area, the rose red petals and stuff really add to it, and I think this is supposed to be based off of the area of the Cleric Judge or something or other, like their the crimson something or other. I don't remember the names of them, to be honest. This whole area is pretty nice, and once you go all the way up and up and up, which seems to be a common theme in these areas, you'll eventually reach a building where the next boss will be located. This fight is so goofy to me. The first phase of this fight is just great. It's like, it sets you up for failure. They can't do anything. Huntress Larianar, or whatever her name is, literally can't do a damn thing about my big bludgeoning stick, and just gets knocked on the floor with every heavy attack until second phase hits, and then all of a sudden she turns on beast mode. She's got lightning kicks, lightning walls, holy kicks, whatever you want to call them. I think they're holy, not lightning. And then she has holy shield bash, holy stabbing, holy shit, can you please slow the fuck down and stop dashing away, put your chili dogs and sonic shoes away, we're not playing that game. Eventually a couple of false steps and moves will put her down and make her no longer able to combat me in this bloody room, adding a bit more blood stains to an already disgusting looking room, and we get to move on with our journey. I just love the contrast between Part 1, which is I can't get up, help, I have fallen and I cannot get up, to Part 2, which is just like, please just put down the fucking shit and just fight me again like you were before. This is no longer fun. It's just funny to me, I don't know. The fight is fine, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way it goes from fucking, oh wow, she can't do anything, to, oh wow, please just stop and let me fight properly again. Oh, I love this game so much, it's so stupid. After that boss fight, down a corridor, and you wouldn't believe it, up an elevator, because everything goes up, 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 up in this game. Going up the elevator will take us to where we need to be. We are now steps away from a beacon to be cleansed, making that 3 of 5, closing in on that number pretty quickly, I would say. But there's one person who stands in front of us, Judge Cleric. Judge Cleric, the judge, jury, and executioner of this fucking beacon. She stands in the way of making this a free time beacon cleansing service. So we've got to make a move. I'm going to hold my hands up and say I died to her much more than I would like to admit. I think I died to her like 6 times, and I really shouldn't have. It wasn't that hard of a fight. I think there's something with me in sensory overload that really does me in. She can get a bit wacky and goofy with her spells, and it just does seem like there's nowhere to move, especially in second phase. But let's start with the first phase. She looks very fucking cool. A man of the people, a man of the light, well, woman of the light. And she gets her shit done. She is not to be messed with, and she will kick your ass if you let her. Second phase of the first form, yep, there's 2 forms, means that she starts raining down arrows and lightning and holy spells galore, not letting you move unless she says so. Gotta keep your eye on the field, where she is and where her spells are. The arrow raining down spell is obnoxious as fuck to deal with, and I hated every moment of it. Again, I feel like this is a moment where ranged combat would have been precise, and I really should have started going into that more when I got the enchanted throwable objects, but I digress on that. This game does seem to prioritize switching between the two if you really want to have a fun time against a lot of the bosses, but that might just be me, not too sure about that. Once you do whittle her down and get her into second phase, my friend said it's the first phase but with a different color change, and I don't really see that. I feel like she's much more obnoxious in this phase, with a lot more exploding and a lot more items being scattered around the room that you don't really have a choice on where to go and how to deal with them. I guess you could argue that like the explodey items are more like the arrows from the first phase, but I definitely don't see that. I feel like it's a completely different phase, because once I got the first phase down, it didn't translate to the second phase at all. But she does take a decent bit of damage, so it's not like we're completely stuck and lost in translation out here. Judge Cleric is going to go down one way or another, and the damage boost is pretty nice on top of that. It's just nice to do damage to things. I like doing it. Overall, the boss fight, I loved it. I didn't find a problem with it. My biggest problem would be the sensory overload. I felt like she did too much, but she seems like a boss that should be doing that. She is the Judge Cleric. They've been hyping her up around the area for a while now. Even like characters at home base were hyping her up and wanted to meet her and see her. So it makes sense that she gets to go all out and show her full case of power. Either way, first phase was pretty decent. Second stage is... I still don't really understand second phase. But no matter what, she goes down. She dies. The beacon gets cleansed. So that means we're 3 out of 5. 2 more to go. From the oven to the freezer, if you will, we've got some detouring to do. You see, near the beginning of the game, there was a door. It's in the first area, the village, as I dubbed it. It's in that area. Second bonfire in, you'll find this door. This door needs a key to unlock. You'll get this key from some random guy in Safe Haven telling you to go there. Once you go there, you'll just go to the door and unlock it, and we are in the Icy Plains. Moving forward, killing and walking, you'll eventually hit this pool of water. This pool of water is where the next Guardian is held. This is our next boss fight, and he's a bit of a prick. See, he's not alone down here. He has like a couple of dogs, one of those stone-faced fuckers that I don't like, despise. It's just so stupid. Why is he here, man? Who put him here? Who put him in the game? I hate these guys. They're just literally built for annoyance. There's no fun. There's nothing there but pain. I hate them. So this boss fight wasn't very fun, and if it was just wolves and him, it would be passable. The fact that they put a stone guy down here just really pisses me off for no reason. He himself is not a guardian of anything. He has guards to guard him as the guardian. He has 2 dogs, I think, and a stone-faced guy guarding him as the guardian. He's not really guarding anything. He's not doing anything at all. I don't get his existence. What is he guarding? Whatever. He dies. I kill the dogs and then I kill him. I just ignore the stone guy. Stone guy can go eat a brick. I'm sick of him. To the frosty plains, I guess. So I just wanted to point something out here. This area is pretty nice and aesthetically pleasing. But there's one thing I did realize in this game that I didn't do. I didn't run through the game that much. Normally in the Souls game, I'll find like 2 to 3 areas I just despise enough to try and bolt my way through. And normally, no matter what game, even in this game, when I find a boss fight, the run back, I'm just running. I'm not fucking fighting anything. But this game is not very easy to run through. That might be bad for some people, not bad for others. Especially when you have to enter the Rogar realm. There's just too many enemies to, like, not start fighting and having to run back. Especially if you hit a wall when you're running, you're just instantly going to die because you can no longer just turn around. You would have spawned in and carried a lot of enemies with you. So you can't just run, which made me have to fight, and I appreciated the areas more when I had to take my time through them and look around, see where my enemies are, see where I can go, instead of just bolting through going, the end is near, my friend, let's get these beacons lit. I had to take my time, and I enjoyed the areas enough that it didn't feel like a burden to take my time. So, I just thought I'd point that out there. This area was a key example of an area that I thought was going to fucking piss me off because of the Guardian bit, and it turns out no, it's a nicely aesthetically pleasing area with loads of things to do, as well as it's just I didn't run. Like, it's just nice that I didn't run around and do nothing for once and just actually fought my way through the areas. It was pretty decent. I did enjoy. I don't think there's a single area in this game where I'm just like, damn, I wish I'd never had to come back here again, except maybe like the mines. Except from that, it's a pretty decently areaed game. I do enjoy it. Also, this is the last iteration of the character. It doesn't change from here on out. Same armor, same weapon. I was looking for a greatsword this whole fucking playthrough. Apparently there was one I missed earlier that my friend pointed out to me. But other than that, there was only 2 strength greatswords I could find in the game. this being one of them, and then I think everything else was either dex or equality, so I ended up not using them, but I really wanted to because all the other heavy weapons were a slam down, and if you know me, I'm not a big fan of slamming down weaponry. I like my weaponry to have a big swing to it, and greatswords do hit that mark even if they do hit a bit less than the others, but I can take that because the moveset on the greatswords is superb. Mwah, brillianto, love it. So this is the last iteration of this character you'll see now. You won't see any changes in armor or weaponry going forward. Except maybe that might be a little lie, but I'll explain that later. Now, I'm a bit of an idiot. Another example of me being directionally stupid. I was exploring the city for what felt like hours just to find out that from this bonfire, you can just go straight up the stairs and the boss fight is right there. It took me ages. I explored everywhere I possibly could to find the actual way to go, just for it to turn out to be right there. You gotta hate it. And this is where I lied to you, because we bring out the bludgeon one last time, because this boss fight is the worst boss fight in the game, by far, second to none, worst fucking piece of shit that's ever existed in the history of ever. Holy shit, what a boring fight. It's laughably just, bleh. Like, I hate it. I don't know why. I just don't know why this is here. I just don't get it. It brings nothing to the table. It's not even interesting in a different way. At least some of the other bosses where I'm like, they went with something different, but that's okay. They tried it, and that's fine. This, I just don't get it. It's just an adathon, the video game. It's just ads spawn in, you hit the enemy once, and she goes, woo, and disappears. And you just rinse and repeat, and then eventually you kill her. It sets off the bird to do a little storm attack, and then she comes back for round 2, and you do it all over again. I didn't want to be in this fight any longer than I had to, so what I did was I equipped the bludgeon and just charged my heavy attacks. They did the most damage. Out of all my weaponry, that did the most damage to her. Because she can't attack, block, or do anything to stop you from hitting her, there's no repercussion from just sitting there and charging it and let her fucking have it. So that's what I did. I just did that and got this boss fight overdone as fast as possible. This is the singular boss fight that I just wish wasn't in the game. I would take 7 stone-faced fuckers over this guy. I don't like this fight in the slightest. Absolute dog shit fight. Just bleh, horrid. Go away. Never again. That being said, that out the way. Bit of a rant over. Boss stung. The beacon is cleansed, meaning we are now 4 down, 1 left to go. I told you it got faster at some point. Straight out of the beacon room, and before you can even say,
Give me that ramp.
oh lordy, he back, and he's giving all the beans once again. This guy stinks. I hate him. I wish he would stop showing up at most unopportune times. I reckon I could have took him if I had some Estus and wasn't in the Rogar realm. I think I could have fucking had him. I could have given him the old 1-2. But he jumped me and gave me the little surprise, wanted my lamp, the usual routine that he normally gives. So I give him the satisfaction of victory. You know, he didn't have to have it. I just gave him it just to be that guy, so I could take him on again later on. Down the road, just wanted to be that kind of guy, so that's what I did. After we take the death, we're gonna have to loop all the way back round to where we lit the last beacon, because we still got one more beacon over that way. For some reason I did it in such a backwards order, and off we trot to that location. Stinky's Bridge is the location, and I thought I broke the game, but it's just PlayStation 5's crappy fucking loading. As you can see on your screen, the door is open for us, but that's just the game not processing that's supposed to be shut yet, and then phases the door in. Because be a dick, why don't you? But back across Stinky's Bridge, down the elevator into the tower. We've got to go a bit of a crazy way. We're going all the way down to go all the way up. Going down the tower itself is actually a fun experience. No enemies too tough or too annoying in its select section. They did bring back some of the fucking Stinky Knights for some reason, and I don't know why. They literally just had them as a boss to this tower, and they're like, oh no, there's loads of these guys. Like, they're everywhere. They're not a boss, they're a mere man. So I don't know. I don't know why they do that. It's kind of irritating. I hate when... I don't mind bosses being used later on. I do hate, however, when they give me a boss and then straight after defeating the boss, the enemies are them just normal enemies right after. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, Dark Souls 2 does this pretty well, where, like, bosses will show up later on. Like, the Ruined Sentinels will show up in the, like, fogged woods or whatever it was where they showed up. But it was ages after you fought them, so like that makes sense. I can deal with that. I think Dark Souls 3 does a similar thing with one of its bosses. Dark Souls 1 also does it with the Capra demon and the Taurus demon showing up later on in the game as well, way after you fought them, because you've progressed so much now that these are normal enemies. That's how this works. It doesn't work when you fight them straight after fucking beating them. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't add up in the slightest. But except from that, the tower climb itself, well, declimb, the going down, is that counted as, that's not counted as climbing, is it? You don't climb. I know you can climb down something, I guess. So yeah, the climb down, there you go. The climb down the tower is pretty good. It's been a long day, alright? The climb down the tower is pretty decent, pretty good. Gotta switch out of the normal world and the Rogar realm just to get through and over some obstacles, making you be very tactical about your movements. Some spiky head dudes return, but this time they're no issue of mine, and we can take them out pretty easy with some heavy attacks. Other than that, it's just all the way down to the bottom, baby. This guy right here is the guy who's waiting for you at the bottom of this tower. I think he withholds the key that we need to progress, so we gotta give him the beans, the old fisticuffs. We gotta give him the what's what. His first phase isn't anything to be scared of. He has some holy moves that can deal chunks of damage, but his actual swings are easy to dodge, as well as don't hit hard at all, so you don't have to worry about them too much. Just keep beating on him. Eventually he will get a bit of a scaredy cat, oh my god, I'm going to die situation going, and he doesn't take long to be put down in any sense of the imagination. When he is put down, however, that's not the end of the fight. This guy has a second phase. His second phase looks so cool in the transitional period. Like when the fight starts and he starts fucking like dislocating himself to get back up, and it's so creepily cool. I love it. It's a great way to show the boss off. Sadly, that's the best thing he can do in that phase, because he's just a hulking beast now. But like, you can dodge his attacks by just standing underneath him half the time, and charging a heavy attack with the greatsword means that both sides of the heavy attack hit. So the front section that goes up hits, and the back section that goes down also hits. So you can deplete, and I mean deplete, his stagger very quickly without even trying to. Overall, the boss fight's fine. It's a cool design. It just falls by the waistline of just being like a bit of too easy, and that might just be because of my cheese build I've got going on at the moment with the lamp special effect or whatever, but he didn't really stand a chance. After you do this, you then take the elevator all the way back up the tower, and we cleanse the fifth and final beacon, which means it's all the way back to the safe haven. Going to home base alpha means we see one last beacon in the motherfucking sky, making that we've got 5 out of 6 beacons done. We've got to do this last beacon. It's the home stretch, the last one, the big gazongas, the hula hula. We've got to get it done. Now, I've only just thought about this. You unlock the way you go to get here, because the Umbral Glaive locks you out of using the bonfire. You go through a shortcut you unlocked earlier on. But I don't remember having to unlock this shortcut. So if I didn't unlock this, would the game just soft lock? And I don't really get how this works. But you go through a shortcut you got earlier on, and you start going back through the area where you just go to the beacon and cleanse it, and there's no forces in the way to stop you doing that. This is that area. We're back here. This is why I said there was significance to it. Don't you worry about it. Going back through this area will unveil some nasty surprises. Oh, the Light Reaper is here to play a game. It's this guy. It's the pursuer, but this time we actually get to fight him one-on-one. He's not going to run away if he beats us this time. So we actually get to fight him. First things first, when you enter the boss fight, you realize, well, shit, we can't kill him. He's got health regen. Before you enter the fight, there's this little guy stuck to a tree beforehand that unravels the whole thing. Doing this will just make sure that he can't heal anymore, and the actual fight begins. All the dragon bullshit is still existing in the beginning and middle of this fight. For some reason, he does it twice. I never knew that. I don't know if he does that in any of the other locations. Never got that far. Eventually, he puts the dragon away and only brings it out as a little summon to rain fire down below on you. Except from that, he's the same boss you fought 3 times over. but now you actually have somewhat of a chance against him. He doesn't feel as strong, and you feel more powerful than you've met him the other 4 times, so it doesn't feel like a lost cause. The best way to fight him, from what I can see, is just wait for him to do one of his charge moves. They leave him vulnerable for a long enough time where you get to free hit him for as much as you can. Also, I have my charge attack bullshit, so I'm not as in danger when just tanking shit. So I tank a lot of stuff in these fights, which is why I always run low on health, because I'm always trying to get greedy with how many hits I can tank before they start taking actual damage, but I digress on that. Eventually, after abusing the move where he fires the fire at you, you gotta dodge that, because if it hits you, it also explodes to deal extra damage, which is just fun. And his dash attacks, if you just keep dodging those repeatedly and hitting him when he does them, you'll be gravy. You'll go down without much of an issue. It's kind of disappointing how he doesn't come off as this grandiose boss as I thought he would. You see him in 4 different locations, but in this location, he doesn't feel any different from the first 3, which is kind of just like, you know, I kind of wanted something a little more from a guy who's been hunting me the whole game. But he still does a job, and he does it well enough that I can't complain too much. Also, he's just a cool looking dude. The dude swords he have look sick, and the fact that he has a booklet on his arm as well is just icing on the cake. The fire stuff that he does, like, not too big of a fan of. I wish that he got left to his dragon to do all that, but I can't have everything, I guess. Anyway, eventually the Light Reaper, I think his name is, will go down, and we can move onwards and upwards onto the next stretch of this game. I would like to add, there's another boss straight after this, but I fucked the questline up. I didn't realize, so I can't show you him. There's a couple of bosses I've missed just by not being smart. So I'm going to come back to this at some point and do an all boss video, and I don't have to bring in the areas as much, and it'll be just about the same length kind of video as this I would go with. But yeah, I missed the boss there, but onwards and upwards we keep going. After wandering around aimlessly for God knows how long, eventually I wander into a boss room where Harkin, the man, the myth, the legend, decides he's going to throw down with me for some reason. This comes out of the blue, and I don't like it in the slightest. I don't get why I'm fighting him. He's been non-aggressive and non-responsive the whole game, just sprouting out random shit like, I've defied the will of gods, I'm no monster, don't get in my way. I'm not even in his fucking way. I don't get what he's trying to do. I guess because I only got one of the 2 endings that you can get in the first game. Maybe this game takes place after the other ending I didn't get, where I guess Harkin goes with the Rogar instead of going against them. Maybe, I couldn't tell you. I don't get why he's fighting me here. Also, they made him an absolute laughing stock of a fight. I went in with 2 Estus, and I was like, I'm going to have to redo this fight. The guy got 1-tapped. He didn't stand a chance. He didn't put up a fight. He didn't even get to know what a fight is. It was like I was piloting him in the first game all over again. This guy was getting slapped about harder than I was. And this is just the most saddening fight for me. It's not bad, it's not terrible, it's not the worst fight, it's not the overall terrible fight, it's not even a bad fight. It's just saddening that they send him out like this. To my knowledge, there's not a single ending where he doesn't meet this kind of end, and it's just sad. I don't get why we're here doing this. I don't get why I'm in his way, and I don't get why he just randomly spawns in to say this. I don't get why he's such a pushover. This is the main protagonist for the first game. I get you might want to wipe your hands with anything to do with him, then just don't have him in the fucking game. Like, I don't understand. Or at least just have him die in the beginning, and then you don't have to do any of this. It's great that you kind of get an explanation about his character. I still don't get what happened to his arm. Maybe that's explained in one of the endings in the first game that I just didn't get. But, like, I don't get anything that's happened to him. You kind of find out why he was put in prison. He murdered people, innocent civilians in Mondstadt trying to get out. But overall, this game just does him dirty. I just don't understand why I'm fighting him. I don't understand why he's such a pushover. He doesn't even fucking put up a fight. It's literally like he's from the first game and is clunky, unmovable, and is just taking hit after hit after hit, trying to do something. It's just laughably sad, and I just wish he got a better send-off. Even if you want to push the game in a different direction, just let him go out better than this. That's all I ask. With that being said, after you beat him, you can open the door. The big clump of black stuff goes away, and we're in the end zone of the game now. We're at the final stretch, the final hurdle. Not much stands in between me and the final part of this game. Before we can go any further, I decided to try out the, which is patched now, I'm pretty sure, on console and PC, so you can't abuse this anymore. There was this glitch that you used to be able to do while in the Rogar realm. If you just went into thingy, eventually the eyeball would go red and it would summon a red Reaper. If you stood in this exact location, it would instantly kill him. They fixed it, they patched it, you can't do it anymore. I'm saddened because I can't abuse this in a PC playthrough where I could just get my souls back very quickly and whatnot, but they patched it. Eventually, apparently, he does go down in worth of souls with each kill you do on him, so that's kind of saddening. But overall, it worked, it was pretty good, and it was an easy way to grind soul items for bosses and stuff, because they drop the coins that you would use to buy them. But overall, it's all patched out now, but I thought I would just post it in here to say that this was a bug at some point that I did use to get some souls at this point in the game, just to make up for all the souls I had lost by just dying over and over again. But with that being said, it's time to get onto the final stretch. Next up is the castle. This area just confuses the fuck out of me, I can't lie. I couldn't tell you where it starts and where it ends. I just got lost a lot here. This would be my least favorite place, not on difficulty or enemy-wise, but just on the sheer amount of fuckery confusion I had to go through to try and figure out where I was going. I don't think it's that hard. I just think, like I've been saying, I'm just so stupid. I couldn't figure it out for myself. Eventually, after hours of wandering around aimlessly, dying to the same shit over and over and over again, I get to where I'm supposed to be going. I found a key somewhere. I can't even find the footage where I found the key, so I couldn't even tell you where the key is, even if I wanted to. This journey in this fucking castle is an absolute nightmare beyond belief. Also, it used to run like shit because, and I find this hilarious, every single book in the bookcase had, like, collision on it. And that was decreasing performance madly. They've patched it out now. They've removed all the collision from the books there, so it's not as bad, but Jesus Christ. It wasn't terrible on PlayStation, but I'd hate to get here on PC. Overall, this is where I started using the throwing weapons more consistently. The hammers I had, they do chunks of damage, and it means that you can kill ranged enemies a lot more easier and a lot more consistently, as well as the dogs and wolves go down without much of a fight as well. Overall, it's a pretty confusing area for me, but it's still a nice looking area, and I do like the idea of it being a confusing place to go through. I just wish I wasn't stupid, because it's not too confusing. It's just going to different parts of the castle, getting different items to go to a different part of the castle to unlock an item, to then use the Rogar realm to access it. It's all that, and I'm just too dumb to understand it all. But yeah, eventually I figure out that you've got to drop onto this like red crystal from somewhere, and then you can go down, and this is the right way to go. My sleep-deprived state, I forgot to mention this bit, so I'm just going to add it here. So while you're going through the outside area of the castle, which is just not a lot to talk about, which is why I skipped it. It's a cool looking area, but there's just not a lot to it. It's just literally there to lead you inside the castle, where the majority of the time is spent. There's this boss that stops you going in there. Again, she just got heavy attack to death. There was nothing to it. That's why I kind of forgot about her existence. She just took a big L from heavy attacks. She didn't really stand a chance. Gave her the old 1-2 knuckle sandwich, puncheroni, ruderoni, and she didn't know how to handle it. I'm a bit of a goat when it comes to charging heavy attacks in Souls games. It's like my go-to standard, so it's a saddened life for her, but she dies. I'm pretty sure it's her. She dies, and I move on back to where I was at before we got to this point. Teleporting back to the crystal path we were on a second ago before I was rudely interrupted myself with a boss I miss. You just follow this path down, and eventually you'll come out into this open space, which leads to the second last boss of the game. We are nearly there, people. It's closing in, surely but steadily. This boss is a cool one. The Monarch intro shows you exactly what you're up against. This behemoth of a man even shows you the size difference. Even from a distance, this guy is 10 times bigger than you will ever be. He is the literal definition of monster among men. Throwing some lump hammers at him, giving him a bit of that ranged combat, will eventually make him go, "Oh no, my arm's gone. and then you'll start ripping the statue apart, and now you get to fight him with the statue head as his weapon, which is just the dumbestly cool thing I've ever seen in my life. I just love that. It's just so dumb but cool. I wish you got that as a weapon, but you don't, sadly. But let's get into some of his moves. The first phase is pretty simple. He doesn't do a lot other than slam the big statue head about, mostly doing these big massive wind-ups to kind of show the statue inside. Even the camera zooms out to show you how much strength and anger he's putting behind these swings, but they're easy to dodge, and even if they're not for me, the charge attack cheese that I have going makes it so that I can just tank the hit because he has no follow-up at all. It's only when you get into second phase, his transition into second phase is a cool one, as he just gets engulfed in fire and flames, the redness surrounds him, he's getting ready for a war right now, and then he starts to get a bit dangerous with all his moves taking on fiery forms. He starts to rain fiery daggers down from the sky that leave it a bit of an area that is scary to stand in, as well as all his other moves now have these fiery aspects to them. Like when he does his slam down, he gets a bit of a fiery shockwave after it and stuff. Again, I get to tank most of it, so it's not too bad. But like, he means business now. His head's on fire. Like, it's go do or die time. If a man's head's on fire, he's coming for you, brother, and you better find a way around them. Eventually, just like every fucker that stood before me before, he is going down. There's no ifs, buts, maybe coconuts about it. We need to take him down. I cannot get this far to fail. Cannot happen. Eventually, after some grits, tears, and a lot of charged heavy attacks, he goes down. Just like everyone else before him did not stand a chance against me, the weird-looking goofy fellow with a great sword, and we get to move on to the final boss of the game and finish the story once and for all. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. A gimmick boss fight to end the game can work when done right. This isn't done right. It's a good gimmick boss. It's like Renala's first phase turned up to 11, but it's still a gimmick boss that doesn't deserve to end the game in any way, shape, or form. Souls games are having this problem, and I wish they would stop, where the actual build-up to the ending is 10 times better than the ending ever is. Elden Ring did it, Dark Souls 2 did it. I would argue that like most other non-From Software games do it. The ending boss never hits right compared to the rest of them, and it's starting to become a trend that I'm not liking in what I'm seeing. For example, the one thing I always say, and I know this is a bit off tangent, that Cyberpunk does it the best for me. I get it's not Souls-like, but it's one of the games I'm always happy to get to the ending to. Not because I don't like the game or the game is bad, but the game is building to that crescendo at the end. And that's what Souls games are trying to normally do. They're building to that crescendo for that final boss to take you home, and they're missing that mark, and this is no exception. This boss is in simple premise is just more ads, just constant ads. What I think is happening is he's putting his soul into the ads, which buff the ads into these like flame-chucking son of a guns that just piss me off royally. Every time you kill one, it spreads two, so you're always adding an extra minion to the fight, which means by the end of the fight there is just a shit ton of ads throwing fire at you off screen, and you don't want to be there. Like I said, it's like Renala turned up to 11. Renala in Elden Ring is that boss where the first half is you just killing ads waiting for her to drop to the ground. It's just this, but the ads are strong and they piss you off royally for no other reason than just to be difficult. But it's not difficult, it's just annoying. Oh, I'm so sad. Do you know if they ended off with the boss I just did, I would be singing praises right now about how the game ended on a high. Yet sadly, I've got to say the game ends on a low just because of the boss fight at the end. And then the ending. Oh, the ending. Jesus Christ. Once you kill all the ads in the game, in this area, you don't have to kill them all, you just have to deplete the health bar far enough. I'm pretty sure there's like double the ads than there needs to be. So that's what I mean, it gets hectic and stupid. You get the ending that you chose. Now, I just want to put a little disclaimer here. Depending on what ending you go for is different to what boss fight you get. For example, if you try and join the Rogar, I'm pretty sure, you fight Judge Cleric as the end boss if you hadn't done that already. I'm not sure who your end boss is if you don't fight her ahead of time. Like, maybe the guy I just fought is the end boss on the other endings if you fought Judge Cleric or not. Not sure how it all works, but I'm just saying, this is the ending 90% of the people will get because the game pushes you towards cleansing the beacons. So 90% of people are going to cleanse the first beacon, which I'm pretty sure locks you out of the other 2 endings. If not, it definitely locks you out of one of them. So there's that. So I'm just saying, this is the ending I got because I cleansed the first beacon. It was unchangeable from that point. So this is the ending most people are going to see, and it is the end fight that most people are going to experience their first time. So I'm going to say that yes, it is a bad ending to the game. So the ending I got, which is what the ending most people would get, as I've already said, is that you get to the Rogar realm, he tries to talk you out of it, you kill him, then the ending actually begins where you absorb him into the lamp. But by doing this, Aureus takes over, just as he was always destined to do. But this kills the player, meaning that the player dies, game's over, Rogar are gone, Aureus lives. That's the ending I got, which is a bit of a cop-out. A lot of questions are left unanswered. From my knowledge, this isn't like the best ending you can get. The other 2 endings, especially the one that's really hard to do, is a really good ending with a better boss. I just don't know. I've not done them yet. But this is the boss, like I've said, that most people are going to get. And this is the ending most people are going to get. So, yeah, that's how the game ends. You just die after absorbing the Rogar god and Aureus takes over. Which, like, the game is kind of based around him, I guess. You hear passing comments on him being the one true god or something. I don't fucking know. It ends. GG, well played. Come back again another day. With this, you will unlock New Game Plus and a new class to go through the game again if you want to do so as a new beginning. New Game Plus changes a lot apparently, giving you new items as well as removing fast travel and making the game more difficult. I haven't done it, so I wouldn't be able to comment on it, but what are my thoughts and opinions of the game overall? Let's get into that now. Jesus Christ, this was a long video. I think this might be the longest video I've made so far on my channel. But I wanted to make sure I did justice to the game and got everything I needed. I felt like I needed to get into the video, and I felt like I did pretty well doing that. Overall, the game is pretty decent. Its performance issues are being fixed one step at a time. Each patch a day now, sometimes 2, is fixing the game slowly and steadily. You can tell the devs are passionate about the game they made, and they want it to succeed. And I want it to succeed as well. It was a fun romp through the world, and I want to see Lords of the Fallen continue to expand its universe, continue its characters, and go forth onwards with more things to do. I'm hoping that there'll be a DLC in the future I can come back to. I'll probably do a video or 2 on getting the other 2 endings within the game, as well as do a challenge run or 2. Already got a crossbow one cooking up for the fellas. Overall, I do recommend the game. Maybe tread with caution on PC, and PlayStation's performance has only gotten better, not worse, so you can always rely on that. Consoles are okay, PC always tread with water and be prepared to refund if you cannot get the game to run well. Other than that, I don't have a problem with the game. I think the weapons are clean, I think the bosses are fun, I think the areas are nice. Some density problems may put some players off, but I don't mind it as much as most others will. I can't not recommend you to play the game. At least try it. Maybe go for a different ending, but that would cause you to have to look things up, so, you know, tread lightly there as well. Other than that, yeah, I recommend this game wholeheartedly. I would love to see this succeed. According to sales reports, it's already succeeded, but I just would like to see more people get into the Lords of the Fallen universe. The first one was something else entirely. I don't know what they were cooking with there. Second one is 10 times better and deserves some recognition and support. So I will be the guy to give it that recognition and support until the next video, which will probably be a Wayfinder Wednesday. And yeah, because I better get that out because I'm gone Wednesday to watch the new FNAF movie. So yeah, gotta do something there. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. It's been a long fucking haul to get this video made. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.